Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
So Murphy is back from his reset retreat. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah.
Life reset retreat.
And it sounds really big when you say life planning retreat, but
That's what it is. But you
just needed a break from Jodi.
You want to address that?
No, I didn't need a break from you at all. Actually, I wound up missing you, which was kind of nice.
Oh, see, that's sweet. Well, you used AI, though. This is what's different. This is the fifth time you've done this annual retreat, and you used AI?
Yeah. So let me explain to you why I do this, again, for anybody that's thinking about it. If you're in a place in your life where, it happens late into parenthood, where you've got so many different things that are going on. You've got your personal life, you have time with your friends, you've got your career, you've got whatever, a lot of things in the mix. And sometimes you just wind up on autopilot. Just to, every day you've got a task list, you go through the routines, and at some point we don't really stop and think, okay, why am I actually doing these tasks in the first place? We just kind of mindlessly write them down, and we assume that we have to do, every single thing. And that's why stopping and really trying to get priorities and understanding, okay, if I'm going to fit in the things into a week that are really important, like my long-term health, like my relationships with people who are important to me, like career growth, no matter where you are in your entire career, you've got to actually stop and do something, deliberate with it. And that's why I kind of
zoom out and look at everything from above your life instead of just being in it.
Yeah. And so for me, it's really two parts. One is just a big brain dump. Is what I call it, where you write down every single thing. And it doesn't matter. Some of these things may not even be actionable. It's just anything literally that comes to your mind.
Wait, that you have to do that's in your life? Like what's in your dump page? What's on your page?
It's literally everything from, what is it that I want to do that I'm not doing? What is it that frustrates me? What am I happy about? What do I enjoy most? You literally everything that you can think of.
Oh,
and
wow.
And then you just try to assemble and pieces and parts, and you're not going to walk away with perfection. That was problem number one. First year, I think I walked out of there thinking I was going to have every single problem for the rest of my life solved. Obviously, that's not possible.
No.
But anyway, so that's how it all starts. And then the goal by the end of the weekend is at least to have some kind of organization by category, pillars, if you want to call them that, different areas of your life that you can then focus on. And so the most important thing that comes out of it is, what action are you going to take? It's like, okay, great, you've had a brain dump. But a bunch of stuff sitting on a piece of paper is not going to do anything if you don't actually plan what you're going to do with it. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And you also have to understand that if you don't take a next action, and some things are going to be uncomfortable. It's really funny how as we get older, we don't want to push ourselves, you know what I mean? But you're always going to be better for pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Most people, though, because life is so busy, don't take the time to actually stop and do that. You have to be deliberate and schedule that. And look, I'm not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination, but this gives me a fighting chance at focusing on those things.
Look, I think it's the smartest thing in the world for you, and anybody could benefit, even if you walked away from the weekend with one thing that you sort of saw differently or changed about the way you rolled or handled your day.
Yeah.
But there's nobody I know who could benefit more from this than you. Because, like, when I first started to date you, spend time with you, I had never been around anybody like you, Murphy, with your whole, you would do that to me on Sunday afternoon. I would show up at your house and go, hey, you want to go riding? Or let's Sunday afternoon. And you'd be like, I'm busy planning right now. And I'd be like, what? Planning what?
Planning on where we're going riding?
Yeah.
No.
So it's just so right for you, but it's also smart. If you want a successful life, you need to look at your life.
Well, I need to get out of my own head, and somebody. And again, not everybody's different. So this may not be something that's for you. Some people don't have to. It happens naturally. I wish it did for me, but it doesn't. I am one of those that I tend to, because I get focused on one project, I can lose myself in a project for 2 days if I'm not careful. Right?
It's true.
Yeah. So that's the real reason, for me to go back and do this, is to keep on working on some things that I just want to make sure that I focus on.
I have a question about the dump.
Yeah.
All the stuff you just pour out of your head.
Right.
Does everything make it to the final whatever template?
Draft?
Or are there things that are like, I'll deal with that later, or this is not for this weekend?
So yeah, you. For me, I was going to say I can't really process every single thing like that. So you do have to prioritize. What are really the most? You just start to go through everything that you've written down and really just try to star it, mark it up, however you want to. I mean, I bring crazy amounts of pens, highlighters, whatever it takes for me. I am an incredibly visual. It's weird. I have to be a visual brainstormer. I'm a very linear thinker, but I have to have things out in blocks if I'm going to be focused like I should be, almost board style. And so some things don't make it. Year one, I tried to figure out how to take every single thing I thought about and turn it into something. And the truth is, you can't really do that either. At some point, you have to make a choice. And that's the really that's the whole FOMO thing kicking in. Well, if I blow this off, then what? Am I going to miss doing it? And so not everything does make the final list. And it's always helpful to me to whittle it down when I get to the last day, and it has to be because it winds up it feels almost overwhelming. It's so much information. It's like, okay, one thing each category. And when I start there, then usually then I'm okay.
It comes together.
Yeah,
you're right about everybody handling it differently, though.
Yeah.
The one time I did it, I worked for a little while. And then I went exercising and shopping because I just felt
but that's
like
good, and that's
I looked at my life. It was health that
and that's a good. And it is going to be individual and different for everybody.
Yeah.
And you do have to schedule the fun time, and the creative process can't be like don't take any breaks, just keep go.
Mm-mm.
If you're a taskmaster, you're only going to be left brain, and you're not going to be creative, and you're not going to think out of the box, and you're going to do things the same way that you've always done them. Stopping to do that is really, what helps me. But you have to take a breather to go walk or meditate or eat or, I guess see a movie, whatever you want to, that breaks up the pieces of the planning if you're going to do this so that it's therapeutic. Otherwise, you come back totally exhausted too.
So how did you use AI? That's the one question. I have a couple of other questions, but let's hear about the AI.
I didn't even think about this until I was on the road there. So there are two different ways that I use AI. One of them is what we were joking about in the show this morning. It's a little program called Otter, that I use that transcribes. Basically, when I'm driving, I'm not going to write. Yeah. And sometimes speaking things aloud for me make them more real anyway, and they're helpful. And the AI summarizes everything.
Are verbal.
Yeah, that's why it summarized everything right down to my nosebleed.
Yeah.
He abruptly left the conversation.
Did you ruin another shirt?
No, I didn't. I got really lucky there. So I had enough fast food napkins. That was fine. But anyway, so that was, one part of AI. The other thing was actually using, and I'm still trying to figure out which AI service I like the most. And I'm actually tending to lean more towards Grok these days. ChatGPT is good, but every time, for whatever reason, for my use, and this does not they're very advanced. They're all very advanced, and honestly, they're all very similar. But it tends to feel more conversational for me. And so I just said, look, here's what I'm doing. I'm starting this today at 5 p.m. I have until noon on Sunday. And these are the areas in my life that I want to cover. How should I structure this weekend so that that I tackle what I need to and have intelligent breaks built in?
I would have never thought to use AI for that.
Well,
so
what
did it tell you?
So this is, and then I'm going to share something else with you, the voice part of it here in just a second. But daily suggestion schedules. Arrival and initial focus. 5 to 6 p.m. start with a light self-care activity to unwind from the day. Walk, stretch, deep breathing. 6 to 7 p.m. dinner. 7 to 8:30 p.m. initial planning session. Nice. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun for night, right? How many people are
Friday night?
Right, yeah,
that's
exactly.
Murph for you.
Right. But, it's across all areas. And it told me start out big picture first, all areas. Personal health, personal growth, Murphy, Sam, and Jodi, as I talked about us. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you know what it thinks about both of you in a minute.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. And then it did build in 1 hour's worth of wind down. No screens, and wind down. And anyway, so it built out the next, day and a half, much the same. It took my big categories and told me to pick one or two things in each of those. And it really gave me, where I failed was I did not follow the schedule to a T. I'd get in the zone, and I stay in the zone.
The focus.
And man, when I'm in the zone, as Jodi can tell you, I don't hear anything going on around me. And the next thing you know, I look up and it's 2.5 hours later. And there's some task that I've done that I've been distracted that I really didn't need to work on in the minute. That's very difficult for me because when it hits me and I know I can solve it, I want to dive in right then. And that is not the best thing to do because you're going to miss the priorities. That's why it just takes constant work. But I view it as a positive now. In one of my, we can talk, takeaways on the show tomorrow too. But, one of my takeaways is really one that came long before the retreat this time is to not stress about. I've got to stop attaching emotions to projects and tasks. Unless they need them. If it's a relationship, there's nothing wrong with emotion itself.
Sorry, I've been living with you for a very long time. For you to say something like that is groundbreaking. But that's not attaching an emotion to a project.
Yeah, it's who it's who I am. And the thing is, in most areas of my life, it's a positive. Mm-hmm. Because that passion and that emotion is what drives me in general.
I know it.
But it's also my biggest enemy. Everything that we have that's a positive attribute also tends to have its dark side.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I think for years I was spending, even though I knew better, even though I read about this, they say that you really focus on your strengths and not your weaknesses. And what that means is don't spend your lifetime trying to improve every single one of your weaknesses. You need to focus more on your strengths to kind of pull you away from those and at least acknowledge those. And so maybe I wasn't acknowledging the weakness side of the emotion of things, but it's enough to either put me on a path and I become so determined I'm not going to stop until I get there. It just takes me over. And so and then it really just is fatiguing to carry that much around. And then you realize it's not. In fact, very few things are that big of a deal. Very few things in life. There are a handful that are health, family, there are some, but most things that we sweat about and get really upset and wound up about are absolutely meaningless if you will just stop and breathe for a second to give yourself the clarity to just get back to it. We become a lot less effective when we, get mired in our emotion and frustration over things and, complaining, to ourselves and internals and the negative self-talk and all of these things that can come out of that. But and I'm going to have to continue to work on that. I will have to have a constant reminder. I have a card in my phone now, actually, that reminds me, of that, because it's at some point something's going to, suck me in. That's going to feel like the end of the world, and it's not.
Yeah.
But
wow, this is groundbreaking for you
to
hear you say it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that, but
I know that that's not something you'll change overnight. It's probably something that you will work on for the rest of your life because you are wired this way. But what do they say? What's the thing about acknowledging it is a huge battle.
Yeah,
it's like knocking down a brick wall. The fact that you acknowledging
a problem is half the
battle.
It solves half the. There are a couple of quotes about that I can't remember. That this, a solution is part of a solution is a asked question or well-crafted question, something like that.
Oh.
Anyway.
That's
I know
too
the
deep for
12
me.
steps, the first step is acknowledging you have a problem.
That's
correct,
true.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
Well, because if you don't do that, none of the rest
go
matter.
anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing is going to happen.
I have another
that.
AI question for you. You got AI to lay out your structure for you, but were there points where you hit impasses on certain problems you were trying to solve, or you were looking for certain answers you couldn't reach that, hey, AI, break this for me? Or did you have it all in your head where you were going?
No, I didn't. It all had to evolve. I think at one point I did ask the AI to, help me, because after a day and a half's worth, I was starting to feel kind of muddy in the head. It's like, I don't know where to go next. Some of these things are things that I have actually addressed before. This is, some of these are coming back up for the fifth time. And quite frankly, they're lost on me now because I've thought about them so much. How do I reset from that? And so it actually did give me a really good answer on that, too. Let me see if I can find that, and I'll tell you what it said. It's great to hear that you're feeling mostly positive as you retreat. This is AI, by the way. As your retreat wraps up. With 1 hour left, I'll address 2 questions with practical, meaningful approaches on what you have shared. Focus on quality over quantity. Shift your attention now from the amount of time spent to the value of what you've actually done.
Ugh. Yeah.
Set realistic, flexible expectations. Your self-doubt might stem from ambitious or rigid goals. Trying to adjust what correct use of time actually means and make it more forgiving.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Practice mindfulness to ease the anxiety of time slipping away. Anchor yourself in the present. Just spend a few minutes in this last hour simply noticing what you're feeling or doing, whether it's writing, thinking, or even packing. Being present can sometimes help you feel more in control and less overwhelmed.
God, that is
It's
so
really
true.
Isn't that crazy? And so that's really good at
Being present is everything.
And I'm very careful with AI because you have to be really careful about the information it gives back. But this was really, helpful. I'm enjoying solitude. Now it's a screen, I know, but I'm by myself and I'm just asking for advice and throwing some things out there. So I'm thinking differently. It's interesting how it was able to challenge me to think differently, because I wasn't. If you notice, I wasn't really looking for it to necessarily answer the questions for me. I wanted it to help me structure it.
Think of it differently.
Right, because I don't mind ideas, but I didn't want AI taking me also off course. I didn't want answers to my problems. I wanted structure and the way to address them, because only I know how to do that. AI doesn't know me well enough to do that. I'm zeros and ones in a digital world, in AI land. So that was actually pretty helpful, and I needed that actual moment of peace at the very end, because again, that's that I don't want to call it a flaw, but that's the who I am, that is such a responsibility taker and such a leader type that I want to structure and solve and try to help others and all of these things that just pile up. I wind up making that pile too big on myself, and so I needed that again at the end to go, hold on, breathe, and I did go back through the things that I thought were takeaways, and I had to do it one thing at a time. I was like, okay, health, what's the one thing? If I'm not going to try to come up with 10 right now, what's the one thing? And the one thing is the same. Literally, I went back and looked afterwards. The same thing I wrote down before are my eating habits, and I've come a long way on those, but I still get into ruts where the extra 15 pounds that I'm carrying, it's not going to go away if I don't make some discipline changes, man. And discipline is just tough.
It is.
But
because you have to be disciplined in so many parts of your life. Somewhere it has to break, or somewhere it has to give.
It's about balance. You're right.
Right.
And we
have to pay our bills. We have to go to work. Nobody says you have to eat yogurt instead of ice cream. So that's what I'm saying, is something you feel like at the end of a stressful day, something's got to give. Right. And
it's making the choices that go with that. But again, that actually ironically does go back to the discipline.
Yeah.
It's so funny how, all the have-tos tend to start to drift away once we're finished with our schooling, extremely young in our lives. And so by the time you get out of that, the only person who's really going to hold you accountable to anything that you do is you. And that means that whether it's your career, whether it means your health, or the things that are just, tougher to work on. Discipline is just not easy. And part of discipline is going back to doing the same things that that you actually should be doing for yourself. And that's a very personal decision. It's different for everybody.
It is.
Everybody's goals don't have to be the same, but it is a fact that if you don't go back and refocus on those things, no one's going to be able to address those things but you. And so at the end of the day, I've got to somehow carve that time out, provide the incentive, make it a positive thing for me to go back and refocus, on those things. And so that's why, I feel like I'm rambling, but going back to the no pressure part of the task part, that's what I have to remind myself of. Because once I get into the task and the zone, I got to remember, don't carry the weight. This doesn't need an emotional charge. I need this energy for succeeding at what I'm focusing on right now, not wasting energy.
I have a question. When you go to eat lunch and or dinner, that's when I hear from you. Like I'll get a text of a menu. Yeah. I'll get a picture, Sam, of a menu and his finger pointing at, I'm thinking about this, or this makes me think of what you would order this. When you're sitting there eating, your lunch, is your mind still trying to tackle what you were working on 20 minutes ago, or are you in present taking a break?
My brain tries to take me back there.
I know. That's why I asked it, because I know you.
Yeah.
When you're on a project, fun fact, When Murphy's on a project, something, on a Thursday afternoon and he's working on it, if we go to dinner or we're having dinner Thursday night, we'll be in conversation and I'll be looking into his face and we're talking and I can see the moment he's not with me anymore. Mm-hmm. And I know he's thinking of something else. And it's usually whatever your task, whatever your problem, whatever your meeting, whatever is going on that you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we know each other well enough, by the way, that you can spot that and you can draw me back in and nobody takes offense and we move on.
Right. Oh, I used to take offense.
I know.
I used to think you were so rude. You were being rude, but I just know that you're not. I know that your brain, you're focused.
But what I really do enjoy about, that part, the eating, is it gets me also back in the social space, because as healthy as a retreat is, I need that balance of interaction too, because again, solitude is a great thing, but at some point you really go in your own head if you're not careful.
Yes.
And your own head is really not going to be the thing that is freeing to you. And so, getting out and having a conversation with the server or people that I run into, I love that part of it. I really do.
That recharges you.
Exactly. Seeing things, trying different things, and in the food, and that's the trick on the food. I need to be more disciplined next time to say every meal that I have can't be something that I am trying for the first time. But that's the fun part. So that is a break from. And I did more of that, like I'm supposed to. Sitting outside on the porch of this place and listening to music. And but in all honesty, that part I have not mastered yet. I really need to be better about when I take the break, like the AI tells me to, I actually take the break.
Because you need it.
Yeah.
Your brain needs the break for you to be fresh again.
Well, and quite frankly, some of the other things I let myself get lost in, and I should have. I told you this. Jodi and I were talking about this. Just the news events of the weekend, just kind of pulled me away. And I'm not one that likes to get. I don't like getting caught up in news headlines and all that. But you
like being informed.
I do like being informed, and that took me down a rabbit hole at one point where I realized, wait a second, okay. This is going to be what it's going to be. The outcome is going to be whatever it is. I'm informed now.
Yeah.
Get back to the weekend.
To work.
Right, exactly. Get back to the weekend, because that wasn't the way I should have spent that relaxing hour of, breathing. Or I literally probably should just pop music back on, sat back outside for an hour, rather than being sucked, into that.
Yeah. Well, you need to also forgive yourself for that. You're human.
But I really do. I mean, I love the process now. Now that I'm done this for a couple of years, I love the process. Every year something is different. Every year something new that I feel is a growth move comes out of it for me, and then something else that I discover that is a challenge comes out of it. Because the fifth year doing it, it's very easy to get bored. I'm telling you, when you go back, because the fundamentals of life are the fundamentals of life, right? Those things, the basics aren't going to change. It's the reason that which football coach was it, Sam, that would every single huddle would start with, not every single huddle, but after a game, especially if they lost, he would start with, "This is a football." Was it Vince Lombardi that did that? Maybe
Vince Lombardi. It sounds like him.
But anyway, and he talked about here. This is how the football is made. It was a refocus on the basics. All these guys playing football, they know what a football is, but that's not the point. The point is, you when you are way lost in some other place, you zoom all the way back out, and you look at the basics of life. Well, that's also easier said than done. How many times have I thought about my health? Okay, what do I want? What is it that I want to do? And that was the challenge I faced this time. And so again, I had to take the emotion out of it. Go, okay, yes, it is what it is. Just write one thing, and you can go on. If it's boring you this much, you can go on to the next thing.
Nice.
And that's and right. And so, but you know what? But the one thing I wrote is an action item, and it actually is watching what I eat. Today I'll have a salad for lunch. That's what I want. And, and that'll be just one step. I'm not going to worry about tonight or tomorrow or whatever. It'll be just, that one.
I've got tonight handled for you.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
So I'm just curious, Jodi, now that I've done this, 5 times, and I trust your judgment really more than anybody else, obviously, when it comes to me, because we are married. You always shoot me straight. So does it make a difference what I'm doing, do you think? Or what do you think?
This time, this is the most I've heard. When you landed at home, we were watching a baseball game and we had dinner, and we didn't, when you got home, we didn't really talk about your takeaways. This is the most I've heard from this time.
Yeah.
So,
and that also is because I've just come off of the weekend.
Right.
That's all I thought about for 2.5 days.
Correct. Right? And I don't want to ask you 100 questions about it. I knew we would talk about it here. I definitely saw a real difference and real change after the first time you did it. I thought, wow. When you came back the first time, I thought you were going to tell me that your big takeaways were about, doing a certain report every week, or I thought it was going to be so work focused because and when you came back with my big takeaway is my health, I was like, oh, that's wonderful. So I'm really glad that your health is still a takeaway, even if it's boring to you or even if it's the same brick wall or problem, because we all have that. Yeah. Believe me, I'll always think I'm 10 pounds too heavy, probably for the rest of my life. And it's just something that it's okay. Sometimes you're going toward being as healthy as you want to be. Sometimes you're going away from it. That's life. So I love that. My hope for you based on this is the focus thing. Mm-hmm. I know, look, I live with you and work with you, so the focus thing enters my life too, and I'm not saying that for selfish reasons. I hope for you because you are such a successful person and you're such a determined person, but your focus does take you off path sometimes. Yeah. It's the reason that you're late for things, I think. I don't think you mismanage time as much as you think, is that you just, when you're focused on something, project A, B, C, D, all the rest fall away.
Yes.
Even if those are important things and it's an appointment that you made or somebody's waiting in the lobby to talk to you, what you're focused on is everything and everything else falls away. If you could somehow manage that better, you would improve. That part of your life would improve.
Yeah.
And for your own peace of mind, you need that.
Yeah. I think it's probably peace of mind, energy management, all of that. Mm-hmm. It rolled up into it. So that's, and I was hoping to have a whole list of takeaways and realize, no, I only need really 2 big categories.
Good.
And I think if I can address those 2 categories, that will fuel me with enough energy to address all the other things. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of
so you're going to focus on those 2.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Focus being one of them. Yay.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.